Hey y'all, how y'all doing? It is Nicole Crump here with Black Media Honor under the Empower Media Group, Hustle and Soul Magazine, Empower Magazine. Today we are interviewing Attorney Ben Crump. He has represented Trayvon Martin. Ben Crump has also represented Michael Brown, Terrence Kuchar, Kendrick Johnson, and he has now, in the most recent cases, have taken on the case that we tragically know about, that we know about now, which is Ahmaud Arbery. Not only that, Miss Breonna Taylor. Ben will be joining us on today. He has definitely been a voice of light for people of color, a voice of reason, and a voice of hope for us. And y'all welcome Attorney Ben Crump.
It's good to see you, though.
Good to see you too. Good to see you too. I'm not gonna hold you long. I know we know you are busy with everything that's going on. We have a few questions for you that, of course, is, viewers and listeners and followers of you wanted to know. So I'll jump right in to some of the things that we have going on. So we know that you're being very informative about the Ahmaud Arbery case. And we have a lot of concerns about that case. My question is, in this particular case of hate crimes, and we all know the facts of what's going on with this particular case. In this particular case, what magnitude of punishment would suffice for such a crime so tragic as this?
Nicole, it is one of those things they teach us in first year law school. Malice aforethought is the concept. It is that you have to show the person had ill will, the person had evil intent, not at the time when the actual killing took place, but in the full context. And so when Travis McMichael and Greg McMichaels grab that shotgun and that .357 Magnum, and they jump in their pickup truck and they go chasing unarmed Ahmaud Arbery to confront him, what is in their mind? The district attorney who's prosecuting this case has to fully vet that out, because it has to be clear for the jury that, hey, they had ill will from the beginning to cause a confrontation that was foreseeable. It could lead to great bodily harm or killing them. That's what they teach us in first year law school to convict somebody of first degree murder. And it goes without saying, because that literally we know if the roles were reversed, and we know if the shoe was on the other foot, and this would have been Marcus Arbery Sr. and his son Ahmaud, who chased down a young white man in broad daylight and ended up killing him, we wouldn't just be talking about first degree murder. We would be talking about the death penalty. We would be talking about a hate crime. So the question really is, do we have two justice systems in America? One for Black America and one for white America?
That I do believe. So you mentioned about the prosecutor. How important is it that they did not get a prosecutor that works in the jurisdiction of Brunswick versus bringing someone from the Atlanta, Cobb County area?
It was very important, because we learned from lessons past in all these cases, if the prosecutor is not zealous and going to get a conviction of the person who has killed an unarmed Black person, whether it be just a litany of cases, Trayvon, Michael Brown, Eric Gardner, Tamir Rice, Sandra Bland, the list goes on and on, Alton Sterling, Philando Castile. You have to have a prosecutor who is zealous in prosecuting people who kill our children as they are in prosecuting our children every day in courtrooms all across America, as I talk about a lot in my book, Open Season, the legalized genocide of colored people, how they're using the laws themselves to kill our people in and out of the courtroom. And so when you see in every courtroom in America, you don't have to take my word for it, Nicole, you can just go sit in the back of any courtroom and watch how they administer justice. Watch when you see the little white boys and girls come up in the courtroom and they have very similar fact patterns as the little black and brown boys and girls. You see them get a slap on the wrist, and you see them escorted out the courtroom to live out the fulfillment of their destiny that God has for them. And you see the little minority children taken over to the corner of the courtroom, being fingerprinted, handcuffed, and convicted of trumped up felonies that they would have to bear like a cross on their backs for the rest of their entire lives. And those are the prosecutors who do that every day to our children. So we need them to go as hard and as strong on this murderous father and son duo as they do all our people every day. And that's why it was important to get a prosecutor who didn't have any connections to those people in Glenn County.
Right. I agree. Do you, with William Bryan, and the evidence that we see now, do you think that he would be convicted? Do you think that any arrests would even come from his involvement in this, or what we feel his involvement is in this?
Well, we expect him to be arrested. Marcus Aubrey Sr. and I talked. He absolutely thinks that William Rowdy Bryan was part of the lynch mob who lynched his son. He has been very clear from day one, it was a lynching. They lynched his son, and we saw it on video with our own eyes in 2020, not 1920, but 2020. And what we saw could not be unseen. And it's very interesting to note, Nicole, that when he's videotaping this execution of this young unarmed black man in broad daylight, where's the humanity? Where's the outrage on his part? He doesn't say, oh my God, they just shot him. Oh my God, he's dead or anything. He holds that video very clearly as if they were expecting something. And then on top of that, in the police report, McMichael says Rowdy cut him off. Well, if you're not in on this ambush, why is he, speaking to you so familiar that you cut off Ahmaud Arbery as he tried to get away? The psychologist says fight or flight. Obviously, Ahmaud was trying to take flight. I mean, he was running for his life. They got him on one corner. He turned around and went the other way, running for his life. And then Rowdy ambushes him. And then he has to literally fight for his life against armed white men who have a shotgun and a .357 Magnum.
Wow, I saw the video, and it's you mentioned broad daylight, and we know that this was in the dead of day. Has there been any other witnesses who have potentially seen the act committed?
We understand that there may be some additional witnesses who have not come forward. Someone sent or left a note at the scene of the tragedy, the scene of the crime, and they said, I'm so sorry. I wish I would have stopped them. I'm so sorry. And whoever that person is, we implore them, we beg them, we pray for them to come forward, because we have to get justice for Ahmaud Arbery. Yes,
I agree. Switching cases in regards to Breonna Taylor. She was a hometown hero, an EMT who was shot 8 times in her home. We know that her spouse was legally armed with his firearm and shot a police officer. How do you think the justice system will do him?
Thank you so much for bringing up Breonna Taylor, because we have to lift her name up. I continue to say on every interview I do, whether one of these cable news interviews or one of the morning shows or New York Times, anything, we have to keep saying, if you ran, for Maud, you need to stand for Bree, because Breonna Taylor's life mattered. Black women's lives matter equally, just like our brothers. And so we have to elevate their names. As Malcolm X said, the most disrespected, the most unprotected, and the most neglected person in America is the Black woman. We have to fight for our Black women in the same manner that we fight for our brothers. And with that said, I will tell you, Breonna Taylor was a EMT. She worked at 2 different hospitals in Louisville, Kentucky. She attended the University of Kentucky. She had ambitions to become a full registered nurse. She had her whole life ahead of her. She had never once been arrested, had no criminal history at all, Nicole. I mean, her coworkers and her family describe her as an angel of a person who lived to help people. She was helping take care of coronavirus patients in the ER. And she did this without any regard to her own health. Her mother said she was worried about her wearing her gloves and her protective mask so she wouldn't lose her daughter to the coronavirus. But yet she loses her daughter to police brutality while she's in her own apartment, because on March 13th, she was in her bed. It was around 1 in the morning. She was with her boyfriend, Kenny Walker, and the police, who had already had the primary person that they had on a search warrant, was executing this search warrant, this dangerous no-knock warrant, which is so dangerous. And they do them disproportionately in communities of color, where they used a battering ram and they busted open her front door. They were in plain clothes. They did not identify themselves. Kenny Walker, who is a registered gun owner, took his gun and was peeking around the corner because he has a right to protect his castle and to protect his woman and to protect their lives. And so they had called 911, Nicole. They really thought they were being burglarized. And so he shoots one shot at who he perceives these intruders that are coming into their apartment. And then the police just unloaded. They shot 25 to 30 rounds. They shot from the front door. They shot from the window. They shot from the patio. I mean, they were shooting blindly into this apartment. They were shooting so reckless that bullets went into the neighbors' apartments. One little girl who was 5 years old, sleeping, had a bullet go into her apartment. And tragically, Breonna Taylor's body was ridiculed with bullets while she was in her underwear topless. And she was completely innocent. And for 2 months, the Louisville Metropolitan Police Department said nothing to her family, not her mother nor her little 20-year-old sister, who, by the way, lived in the apartment. Thank God was not there that night, or her mother may have been facing the tragedy that she lost both of her children. And so we have to continue to say, stand with Bree, because her lives matter. And if I can, I want to tell you about self-defense in Black and white. I have a unique perspective being an attorney with the Ahmaud Arbery family, as well as being an attorney with the Breonna Taylor family. When the killers of Ahmaud Arbery, that we witnessed execute him in broad daylight, did it, and the police showed up, they declared some type of self-defense. And they were not arrested. They were allowed to go home, Nicole, and sleep in their beds for over 10 weeks peacefully. Now, just oppose that with Kenneth Walker, who believed his home was being burglarized, that they were the subject of a home invasion. He shot one shot bullet grazed the police officer's leg. He didn't kill anybody. When they confronted him, he said it was self-defense. He was arrested and put in jail, and now he has been charged with attempted murder and is facing life in prison. I have never seen such a vivid clarification of self-defense in black and white as with these two cases.
Yeah, I agree. That it's heartbreaking, because it's heartbreaking to watch. It's heartbreaking to see daily that we are slaughtered like animals. It's ridiculous. For people who are saying we're tired of rallying, we're tired of walking, we're tired of talking, what advice would you give to our people of color,
Yes.
to speak, to walk in anything that we can do to support? Like, what advice would you give to them?
Certainly, that's a very important question, because with Breonna Taylor's case, they haven't arrested the police officers. They haven't terminated the police officers. So everybody should be calling, emailing, getting on social media to demand the mayor of Louisville, Kentucky, to hold these killer cops accountable for executing an innocent, unarmed black woman in the sanctity of her own home. That's one thing. But more practical, for you all in Georgia, in Atlanta, you all can do two vital things that are important to getting justice for Ahmaud Arbery and establishing a legacy for Ahmaud Arbery. You all can, first and foremost, if you get a jury notice, a jury summons, you got to show up for jury duty. We cannot have an all-white jury, whether it's in Glenn County or Cobb County. We pray that they change the venue, but you all have to show up for jury service. It is crucial. One of the hardest things for a black lawyer to do is to show up in court with his black client, and the only other thing black in the courtroom is the judge's role and expect justice. We need to show up. We need to have our voices heard. Your vote matters more than any other time when you're in a courtroom and your vote is one of 12, and it's going to make the difference in the life of that black or brown person in most instances. I mean, just you being in the room changes the entire conversation.
It does.
So you have to do that. And then secondly, the Ahmaud Arbery law. Mm-hmm. Georgia is one of only 4 states that doesn't have a hate crime law. It keeps getting stalled in the Senate. When they reconvene the Georgia Senate on June 26th, they're in Atlanta, Georgia. We need to organize, strategize, and do everything in our power to get that law passed. Because had they had a hate crime law in Georgia, that would be yet another avenue that we can guarantee justice for Ahmaud Arbery. So we have to do all these things to fight to get justice for both Ahmaud Arbery as well as Breonna Taylor. And we have to keep saying her name, because Black women lives matter too.
Yes, yes. Last question for you.
Okay.
How can we get involved as a culture with supporting these families, from the mothers to the fathers to everybody, for these victims of hate crimes and injustice? How can we support them?
And give me just 1 second.
Okay.
All right. You said, how can we support them? Well, obviously, we have to pray for them, and we can donate to GoFundMe accounts and that type of social action. However, I think the biggest thing they would want is to try to prevent this from happening to your child. And so whether it is trying to do town hall meetings or do church services where you have people that are invited in to give information, whether the fraternities or sororities, the civic groups and the engagement groups, the civil rights organizations. We need to continue to talk about these issues. Call the local district attorney in your county to the carpet, call them out to the church and look at their statistics on how they're prosecuting Black people versus white people, how they're direct filing our children as adults and not direct filing white children as adults. I mean, it's these things that lead to these injustices that we see when we have these high-profile police shootings or these high-profile quasi-police shootings, as with Ahmaud Arbery, because remember, Gregory McMichael was retired. He was no longer a police officer, so we can't call that police shooting. But it's these things, what we have to do is engage our community, educate our community, and empower our community. That is the key to what we can do collectively to try to prevent this from happening to any other child of our community.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that information. Thank you for taking the time to chat with us here at Black Media Honor, Empower Magazine, Hustle and Soul Magazine. Thank you so much. We appreciate you, Attorney Ben. We really do appreciate your voice, what you're doing for our people, what you're doing for the communities all across the globe. We definitely, we appreciate you, and I can't stress it enough. So I support you, I salute you, and thank you so much.
Well, Ms. Crump, thank you. I'm interviewing with Joyce Stephanopoulos on This Week on Sunday Morning, and you gave me a preview of the interview, so I'm eternally grateful, cuz. God bless you. And we can't wait. We cannot wait to see you on the big screen some more.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good one.
You too now. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.